I know we brought you here on the premise that we are going to tell you how to attract unicorns. I have talked to a few of you and I've asked them, what is your goal for the evening? And the unicorn thing is coming out a lot. So I think let's first agree there are no unicorns. They do not exist. They are not available. They are not there. We are here to talk about how to find you the right ponies. And hopefully with the right pony, you can grow them into a unicorn. Okay, so I think that's number one. Why this topic? So 17 and 7 is probably more personal discussions that someone wants to talk about that speak to them, and this is a topic that really, really speaks to me, because it's my own personal experience, not the unicorn bit, the budget bit, and a lot of that, but also a lot of the clients we talk to don't really they have a beautiful vision, they know what they want to do, but they struggle to either get the right talent or they struggle with, oh, that person is too expensive. I can't even imagine how I will attract them. So to me, I said, why don't we talk about what it takes to attract the right person, even if you don't necessarily have the resources necessary for that. So again, another disclaimer is this topic is probably more relevant to small and growing businesses than necessarily a Safaricom or a KCB who have the brand name and the years behind them. This is more relevant to you, a CEO, head of HR who knows and believes in your purpose, but you're trying to see, okay, so how do I sell this? Because purpose will not pay rent for someone. I think first, let me talk about my own experience. So I knew about Shortlist when they were 2 months old. So I was working in a very well-established firm, 25 years, deep psychology practice, everything tried, tested. We are working with the best brands in Africa. If you can imagine any good brand in Africa, we're probably working with them. And I read about this company that is 2 months old. It's trying to mix technology, assessment, psychology, and trying to help small and growing business. I'm like, this is interesting. I wonder what this is about. It appealed to the challenge in me. It probably also appealed to the bit of altruism in me, thinking there must be more I can give the world than just what General Electric would want me to give, okay? But I was also not crazy. It's 2 months old. So I looked, I'm like, oh, cool, but yeah. There's no way I'm gonna join a 2-month-old company, absolutely not. So again, as a business, where are you in your journey? Are you even ready to attract that type of talent that you're looking for? So that's important, number one. I spent time speaking to candidates who are very famous for leaving really cushy jobs and going to startups, complete new startups. Some of the questions I had for them was, how did you hear about the position? Because we are here to attract talent, right? So I was curious, so you moved, how did you hear that this position was available? What made you consider it at all? But I think the most compelling story for me was, what story did you tell yourself to agree to a 50% salary cut sometimes? I've had someone who even had a 60% salary cut. Like, how do you sit and tell yourself, this is okay? I think for me, what was most compelling and very, very consistent, number one, was there are certain keywords that kept coming up every time you ask this, and it was around the profile. So how do you attract unicorns? Not everybody wants to be a unicorn, and it's okay. Not everybody wants to take a salary cut, and it's fine. So what profile of people do you start with? So first, number one for me is, how do you profile someone who is okay and is happy to leave their cushy jobs to come and work for you? And from this, I figured that some of the things that kept consistently coming up as profiles is people who, we call them, for lack of a better word, I know this is a bit more psychology, but people who are low tradition, people who are very willing to take risks. Like when you tell them about your vision, they're like, oh, that's so cool. And even if you say, we might not be in business in 2 years, they're like, oh, that's great. Like the face they give you when you tell them, we don't know how this is gonna pan out, is an interview. From there, you need to decide, ooh, this one, man, we're gonna struggle with. And we keep saying sell the story, but what is really sell the story that we talk about? We know very well we say we sell the story, sell the story, sell the story. How do you sell a story of talent? And so I did a bit of research and I came up with about 7 easy lose qualities that you can weave around your story. But the first one is your business idea. I remember for me, that was what attracted me to Shortlist. It was just the business idea. It was fascinating. You mean you can actually scale recruitment? You can make it accessible to a small and growing business almost at the same value as a really, really large corporate. That was fascinating for me. So also making it emotional, because the profile of people who would probably take a pay cut, it means it's a gut feel. So I need to be able to feel you from a very gut perspective, and not, it's sometimes very rarely rational. You can't really explain it. And half of them, when I ask, they're like, I can't even tell you. So it's really, really around gut. But selling the founders is number 2. Okay, A players want to work for A players. How are you positioning yourself as a CEO, or how during the CEO interview with that candidate, how is that story sold? I remember from my experience when I met, when I had an interview with Paul, I knew about shortlist. I was already excited, but I was sold. And sold was not because of the promises of what the employment would offer, but the promises of what shortlist was going to do to the landscape in Kenya. I think that was what really, really was exciting for me. But also the working environment. Number 3 is working environment. And I think for me, this is where we've made a lot of mistakes. We sell pizza and football, but we don't sell the 16 hours. So how do we position the working environment more realistically, more authentically, for us to be able to attract the people who actually want to work in that environment? Training programs. Chances are, if you don't have a budget for paying the salary, you also don't have a budget for training. So think about yourself and what training opportunities do you have? Do you want to call them training opportunities or opportunities for personal development? You know, those are different ones. How do you lean more towards personal development and less towards training? One of our clients promises candidates that they will be promoted every 6 months as long as they're doing what is expected of them. They're growing really, really fast, and they need talent that fast. So I'm not saying everybody is giving a promise of 6 months, but how do you, sell that? Because most of you do have very, very fast-paced opportunities. Career aspirations, again, we all know, we ask, so what does my career look like in 5 years? And half of us know there's no way I even know what's going to happen in 5 years. I don't even know if this business is going to be alive in 5 years. How do you answer that question? Okay? In an authentic manner, but still make someone that it's compelling for them. When do you talk about the fact that I'm probably not going to pay you the same money you are earning? Do you talk about it way early? Do you wait until they are sold in the bag? And then you're like, oh, by the way, we don't have a lot of budget. Okay. I am all for being authentic and real, and the earlier and the faster you tell me, the better. So think about it the same way. Have these conversations early on, even if not to say exactly how much. Just say, chances are we probably might not match your salary. I think that, and I'm on the last one, which is, I think, more of a caution, is what we call a psychological contract. A psychological contract is that unwritten contract you sign that is written in the head between the employer and the employee. There is research upon research of its authenticity, of its value, and the fact that it does cause a lot of attrition. Okay? Why am I bringing up a psychological contract now? So you are probably small and you're growing. Half the time you don't have anything cast, like written down very, very clearly. You're like, let's see as we go along. Because that's the reality of your business. You don't necessarily have all the answers, and that's fine. But as you say, let's see as you go along, what promises are you making to this candidate? A lot of the candidates who had left felt they had been cheated on their psychological contract. So the promise that was told to them at the beginning was not the one that they actually got later. That kind of brings me to the end of my talk on how you attract a pony and try and make them into a unicorn. So we've talked about how do you create the right profile from the beginning. Not everybody wants to work for you, and it's fine. How do you make sure that your story is somewhere in case they're attracted to your company? How do you tell your story in a way that is compelling and is attracting the right candidates? And lastly, be careful with your psychological contract, because if you break it, all the effort you put in there might not actually work for you.